Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your girl AJ, the Suburban Princess, here back on the YouTube because I kind of missed my 5 question segment. It's been a nice time off. Summer is officially over, but it's my birthday month, so I'm going to kick off my 5 questions with someone who I've always been curious about, who I've seen through Twitter, who also is Philly sports media savvy. So I would like to introduce him as I'm getting to know him as well. Ryan, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, AJ. I think savvy is being a little bit too kind. We don't want to lie to the listeners out there. But yeah, I don't know what to, I don't want to get into a whole spiel about me, but yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at WiseRye, Instagram, same handle. If you have no idea who I am, which I'm sure a lot of you don't, I'm part-time on air at Sports Radio 94 WIP. Also now with VSiN, so the Vegas Sports and Information Network out in Vegas. I'm still here locally doing a Philadelphia City Cast podcast 5 days a week. So yeah, got a lot going on. Happy to be a part of it.
Yes, thank you for joining us because, as like I said, we don't know each other, but I feel like I followed you like within the last year or two of Twitter because the more and more I've become acclimated to wanting to find my inner correspondent girl that's always kind of secretly been built in my life. I could reenact it through friends I've met through Twitter and other friends off of Twitter. So it's just nice to know somebody other than Jeff Mosher, who I know actually is in that kind of realm of sports.
It's funny. It's funny you bring up his name because his name came to mind when you were saying, I started following you a year or two ago, whenever it was. It might have been like 3 years ago, AJ, because I remember you started just interacting with some of my tweets and even with Jeff's and 97.3's tweets, that's where I was at the time. And I think I may have even turned to Jeff and said, who is this? And he said, oh, that's AJ. She's great. Known her for a long time. She's, a big supporter of my work. And, he had a lot of nice things to say, basically, but he sort of introduced me to you without officially introducing yourself.
A mutual connection that I feel loved without even knowing all that. But then actually you're right, because quarantine took away a year. So yeah, so you're right. Probably about 3 years now that I've been really immersed in Twitter. In fact, I use Twitter, I feel like, more than all the other apps, but Instagram a little more, but that's about it. But okay, so first of all, the 5 questions work. When I usually did this during quarantine, it was mostly just to pry into close friends' lives. And then on top of that, reintroduce myself to people from Twitter who only knew me from sports, crazy sports memes or whatever. And so now it's become a tool that I've been able to pry things out of people at the same time. And in a good way, because I came up with a panel show to do, because I've always wanted to do a panel show. And with everybody still kind of doing this format right now, while things are still kind of crazy in the world, I wanted to get like 4 people together and do something I called the link up. And then I did it with E-Rock, Daryl, and Piccolo, who did one of Fourth and John's tailgate songs a couple of years ago. And it turned out to be a very revealing yet very funny thing I learned about guys, basically. And so at this point, I like to grab random people because I don't date. I don't go out as much as I should because I'm lazy. And then also because just with quarantine now, I really don't trust anybody. So it became my way of prying things out of people. And also because I'm not really by nature a nosy person, I figured it'd be an excuse to do it. So you are definitely going to be my first victim for like this new Eagles season, which is actually more exciting now because I feel like not only am I meeting a lot of girls who love sports and are starting to learn things like I am, it's good to know someone like yourself who, like you said, knew through mutual professional connection. I just didn't realize how many women really probably need to be flooding this format, because I do feel like guys think that girls only know so much about sports. And there are certain aspects, obviously, my ADD, I don't care about stats. So when I do my pod, Birds of a Feather, the audio version on Spotify, I prefer to talk more about opinion, eye test, as they call it, observations. But I guess, my questions I had before, because I know we had a lot of stuff, and then obviously Philadelphia and Jersey were flooding, so we didn't really have the opportunity to meet last week. As I was thinking about it, that hype video that just came out, and I want to ask your opinion about it, because I'm used to the hype videos we had before the Super Bowl year that really kind of made you want to jump through a wall. general consensus for me is that I don't think it was a hype video. I think it kind of made me laugh more than make me go, "Yay, go Birds!" It was more like, like my general reaction was like, "That's it." So, in your thoughts, just tell me what in general you felt like when you saw the hype video debut the other day from the Eagles.
I haven't even watched it yet, AJ.
Okay.
I have not seen the hype video.
Let me
I
just
haven't
tell
even
you.
seen it.
You
I
probably
saw it,
won't
AJ, for the first time today. I saw people tweeting about it, but I haven't even watched it. I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. Like I wasn't on air today or yesterday, so it didn't come up for me like professionally or personally.
Okay.
And the only things I saw, sort of the same exact thing that you're saying, is that it's different. So if you want to lay the groundwork for me, I can chime in, but I'm not embarrassed to say I literally have not even seen the video yet.
I will tell you, don't be embarrassed, because I'm gonna just tell you it's nothing to really holler about. I mean, but I'll plug flyeaglesfly.com because that's where you go to see the full length thing. But honestly, now that I'm seeing that picture of Frank behind you, I'm like, this is good, because now I want to go back to what brought you into this foray in general. Was this always something you wanted to do, or did it kind of just become something that happened as you were pursuing another dream?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's always something I wanted to do. I think like anyone that grows up a diehard sports fan, which is basically anyone in the Delaware Valley, I think I can say that safely. We're all passionate. We all love our sports. We all grew up on it. It's whether it's in the neighborhood with your friends, whether it's on the couch in the mornings before school, eating a bowl of cereal, I remember watching like Derek Gunn when I was like 10, 11 years old at 7 a.m. before I went to school. So it's like, you just grow up on it. And I played sports my whole life. And as I got older and I was getting ready to get out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, let me major in sports management. I had no idea what that really meant, but it sounded good for me. So I went to school for like communications and sports management. And I didn't even get into it right out of college. I ended up getting a hospitality job in the hospitality industry, I should say. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and I hated my life. Just hated it. I was working 60, 70 hours a week in New York City. And I decided to move home. And I was like, let me just try this. Like, I've always been passionate about it. Let me see if I'm any good at it. Let me see if I can even get my foot in the door. So I did just that. I got my foot in the door locally at 97.3 ESPN, and the rest was history. I just fell in love with the whole process, being on air, everything that goes into being on air. And I've just been full speed ahead since. Like, it's been a rough road, and but I love it. Like it's, if you're passionate about something, it really is cliche, but it's true. I've loved it ever since.
Now, you said home. Now, where is home for you? Are you Pennsylvania or Jersey or Delaware?
Yes. Yeah, no, good question. I should have elaborated on that.
That's okay. That's okay.
Home is Atlantic City, Atlantic City, New Jersey. My parents are from Philadelphia, Northeast Philly. Still have majority of my extended family in the Philadelphia area, but grew up about 45 minutes away from the link.
Nice. I know. I feel I've always been a suburban girl. That's why my nickname became AJ the Suburban Princess. One, because my real name is Elena. People can't pronounce it for some reason when I spell it. So I just stuck to AJ because I'm like, I'm not Alana, and I don't feel like going through this whole spiel. So, but I've mostly always been from Jenkintown, Elkins Park, basically area. So I've never not had sports in my house, because when my parents were married, my dad was always screaming at the TV for one of the sports, whether it be Sixers, Flyers, well, not even Flyers, take it back, Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies. So like you, if you always have it in the tri-state area, it's kind of hard not to like a sport or know of a sport. Now, when you play sports, what did you like to play growing up?
I grew up on everything: football, basketball, baseball. In high school, I played a couple years of football my first 2 years, but basketball was always my first love. So my junior and senior year, I just focused on basketball. So I was 4 years basketball, 2 years football in high school.
Nice. So what position in football?
Tight end and DN.
I love my tight ends. Look, if you ever see me tweet, I always say I have something I love about tight ends, and I have no idea why, but it's always been the tight ends to me. And hey, I'm single. I always say It's always because most of them are hot, and most of them are. I hate to say it. It's just certain tight ends.
Well, thank you. Maybe, unless I'm the exception to the rule. I don't know.
No, yes, you're a cute guy, Ryan. But at the same time, I do think that tight ends or something about them, and they serve a purpose, obviously, especially with the Eagles. I mean, most of the tight ends that we know, since I even started really paying attention to the Eagles, are very important in the play. Like switching to which, like I thought Ertz was going to be gone this year. I was already mentally ready to hear the announcement. He was going to get traded. I still think it could happen because people get hurt all the time. Ertz he's a Cali boy. He may want to go back to Cali. I don't know. But what is your overall outlook for, I want to say for the Eagles, but at the same time, I also want to say, like, are your expectations as high or as low as some of us fans have had? Because we've kind of gone on both ends. Like, I'm personally still staying at 8-9, even with the extra week, because I'm like, what more can they do? We don't know each other yet. We don't even know how they're going to play. So what are your expectations?
I have no clue. Like, I'm right there with you. I really have no clue. And it seems like a cop-out, but we have no idea how Nick Sirianni coaches. We have no idea what the offense is going to look like. Obviously, behind Nick Sirianni a lot, but also Shane Steichen. Then on the defensive side, no more Jim Schwartz. We have Jonathan Gannon. What's his defense going to look like? Like, it's everything is new, both on the field and off it. So I don't know what to expect. Like, you can say, yeah, the division's a little weak. Maybe they can capitalize on that, but I have no clue. I have no clue. I mean, you said 8-9, you sort of just threw that out there, and I've said that too in passing. I don't know. I think 8 wins would be a massive success.
I don't see the problem because even with Carson, what were they? They were 7-9 when he got thrown into that season. So I'm like, and that was good considering he literally had to learn as he went. And now knowing that Carson is a Colt and finding out just now that he will be starting, even with his repaired foot, oh Lord, it was very hard for me to separate the fact that he was not going to be Eagle anymore. But then the reality of the fact that I was one of the few people, I mean, Twitter just blew up like, I hate him and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, I was the type of person I was willing to give Wentz a chance. I thought I could understand if you're in your 5th year and you're already ready to replace me when I'm supposed to be the franchise quarterback. I'm leaving. Like, it shouldn't even be a decision. But I understand people now who look at him like, he's a frail ego. Being the fact that he never really gave us an opinion, like, or any kind of personality, should I say. I always thought he was a good guy, but I'm like, and what? Like, we didn't really feel him like we feel some of our athletes. So I personally think as Wentz hopefully will progress as a Colt, I just wonder if it's ever occurred to him that maybe the fact that he never really truly was genuine, I guess I should say, in his approach, because the only few times, maybe a couple press conferences, he seemed like somewhat mad and maybe came off a little pissed off, but I never really felt like he emoted enough. And we're big on connection here. Like, we're the city of brotherly love for a reason. Like, don't piss on us and tell it's raining. Like, like, I just feel like if we don't feel you, we don't want you. And I think with Jalen, I'm starting to accept the fact that he is definitely QB1, is that I already know from the door that he's on this mission to prove everybody wrong. And I personally felt like I was shocked he even got drafted because I'm still one of those people that hated that whole draft pick in the first place. I didn't think it made any sense. But in long term, though, I do think that the Eagles have a good shot of being impressive with 8 wins. But you also have to consider these first 3 games. Like, it really hit me that they're playing the Falcons, 49ers, and then Dallas. So I already have like maybe 1 out of 3 wins, but I do think they're going to win this Sunday. What about you?
The schedule's brutal. And this Sunday is really tough. You mentioned the first 3. They have 4 games in 17 days. So they obviously open in Atlanta. Then they're at home against San Fran. They're in Dallas. And the Dallas game is the start of 4 in 17 days. Then they play Tampa Bay. Then they play Mahomes, Big Red, and the Chiefs. Then they play in Carolina, which isn't scary, but that's still the end of a 4th game in 17 days after playing the Super Bowl matchup last year. So this is a gauntlet. Everyone's saying, oh, it's the last place schedule. To open the season with all this newness on the sideline and on the field, like, the last thing you want is 1-4, 1-5. And that could happen without even being an indictment on this team. That's just because you're playing some really tough opponents. Everything's new. It's early in the season. So that could be to their advantage, but it could also be their downfall early on. So that's my take overall. For Atlanta, I don't I once again, I don't know.
You're like, I don't know.
We haven't seen this team. Like, just
Yeah.
looking at Atlanta's offensive line's a mess. They have a new center starting. Their left guard has a broken hand, and when healthy, their offensive line ain't very good. So
he's always been running, scrambling. Yeah,
exactly. So the Eagles' strong suit right now, I think we could all agree, is the line, both sides, especially the defensive line. So I think there's opportunity there. And the Eagles, they can turn over Matt Ryan once or twice, and they can win this game. But I can't confidently go out on a limb and say, yeah, the Eagles are going to rock out week 1 when we haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I don't know why I feel so, because I'm the same thought process, but for some reason I feel like it's going to be one of those close games. Like I've already thrown my prediction just willy-nilly and thought it'll be like a 30-28. Like I don't feel like it's going to be they're just going to run over them or over.
I agree.
Every season, what is the point of even predicting, actually? Because every season we thought they should have won games, they lost. So now this is a whole new regime. So we don't know if Sirianni has mentally prepared them for, let's not do this fourth quarter, drop everything crap that was happening a lot last year, especially most of the games last year. I don't even remember. That's how much 2020 was such a blur. I think the only thing I've learned now as a fan is to just not hold that bar so high anymore. And I think it's safer that way, because honestly, it's, as fans, we should know, like, let's just be excited as football, but let's not also put all this pressure on Jalen, because he's literally a fish out of water. Although that Saints game last year is the only game I remember, because that was the first time the offense was moving smoother and not so staccato. That's pretty much all I remember about 2020. But enough birds talk. So let's just jump over real quick, because obviously another hot topic is basketball, only because
there we go.
I'm only going to ask it just because I'm tired of seeing Ben Simmons' name in the headlines. But the reality of the situation is, the Sixers, to me, again, messed this up, because there's no way in hell that this should even been an issue. Like, to me, there's a disconnect with what they expected Ben to do for them and then what Ben could actually do. Because you can't tell me he shows all these practice videos of him doing exactly what he can do and then only spit out a couple jumpers 2 or 3 times a year. And then playoffs, he just goes blank. So I'm trying to think, is he trying to be a nuisance? Like, was he trying, or did he put too much expectation on the other guys to bail him out? Or is it literally just the yips, as we say? Like, do you feel like the Sixers organization is more to blame for this than Ben Simmons?
No, not at all. Like, not at all. This is all on Ben. And you're also talking to an extreme Ben hater. Like, I am. I am fine with saying that, but honestly, I say that somewhat kiddingly. But I've just at this point, AJ, I don't know how anyone can look at this situation objectively and not think that this guy's a fraud. I just, he's a fraud, man. He is a fraud. And I've heard story after story from people that have been close to him that his head's not in the right place. And maybe you take that with a grain of salt, because you can hear stories of others that are doing maybe similar things and they're having success on the floor. But the reality is, when things aren't going well, there's just going to be more ammo against you. He said the other day, it's not his job to fix his trade value, bro. I tweeted this out. I was like, Sixers organization goes to Ben. It's like, hey, Ben, we love you. Thank you so much. Here's a Brinks truck of money. Ben says, thank you. Team comes back to him. Hey, Ben, sorry to bother you. Do you think you can maybe just work on your game a little bit? Like, do your job? Like, at this point, you have to just work on your game and show us you're trying to evolve. It's just, he doesn't seem to take accountability. He seems like he wants all the attention and then acts like he doesn't care about the attention. Like, I would almost respect him more if he was real, if he got up there and MF'd us after the game, or like whatever it is. It just, similar to the Carson Wentz situation, I can't get a read on him.
Right. And I don't think anyone can. Yeah.
Everything that comes off just seems ingenuine and that he doesn't give a damn. And maybe that's not the case, but the fact that we don't know that it's the case or not is no one's fault except his own. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. I agree. And I won't linger on it too long. I think it's just funny how as you put Wentz in there, I feel like that's weird how most people and people even on Twitter have made that parallel with him and Carson, where they're not very transparent.
They're not accessible.
Exactly. And so I'm like, okay, that's a hell of a lot of self-preservation in a city that loves to get into their players' minds. So
yes,
good job choosing to be here. But
yep.
all right, moving off that, now about you. So I want to understand exactly, not even just the love of sports media, but what is one thing you definitely have learned? And like you said, you were saying it's been a rocky road, I'm sure, but anything like you said you want, you're willing to suffer for to a degree. What do you feel like is really truly necessary to be in the sports media world? Like, do you necessarily need a degree? And I only ask this because I went to school briefly, I didn't say, but I feel like some people have natural talents for certain things, but I understand there's a technical aspect, obviously, of all media jobs. So it's not like something I can just be like, I have a great personality, but I don't know what a soundboard is. Like, or what the hell is that? Like, what's that button? I can read a teleprompter, but why do I have to have a degree? Like, what has been your experience in that world?
None of that matters. Like, I still don't know the technical side very well. I think the one thing that matters is, once again, this sounds cliche, but this is the truth from my experience, is just your passion and how far are you willing to go, right? Like this, nothing comes easy in life, but especially this industry. And the beautiful thing about the world we live in today, anyone can make content, right? Like, you don't have to be on 94 WIP. You don't have to be on The Fanatic. You don't have to be on whatever, any station. There's a lot of people that are successful that just turn on the phone, the laptop, like we're doing now, and you put out content. But I that's a little bit off track. I think you just have to be willing to learn and show up and be passionate and take your punches and not just give up. Like, it sounds corny, but like, and the other thing is you have to get lucky. Like, I
definitely,
I got an opportunity to get into this industry, and at the time I didn't realize how lucky I was just to get the opportunity to show up to the studio every day.
Right.
Like, just to show up to the studio, and then the rest was on me. Like, I'm not talking myself up, but like, if you get an opportunity like that, you have to take advantage of it, I guess is my point. And no, you don't need, that's the beauty of this industry. You don't need a degree. You don't need 8 years of technical service. I don't know why I said it like that, but
I know what you mean. Yeah.
If you are talented and you're passionate and you're willing, I think you will make it.
You have to just keep at it. I mean, I agree with you. I still hear that Kevin Hart used to always say, like, or he still says, this crew is like, everybody want to be famous, but nobody wants to do the work. Yeah. And that's true. I mean, as much as some people hate on him, I'm like, he still has that mentality and he's still doing things because he wants to be in that life. He wants to be busy. And it's not just something like, I'm cute and I'm just going to get in there.
Right.
Like, case in point, just discussing Ben Simmons, is that exactly why? Like, you don't want to lose that respect from your peers as well as your fans, knowing that you're not trying to do any more of what you just, okay, I'm here, so I don't have to work as hard. It's like, no, don't do that. But
you have to, like, if I can just add one more thing to it, like, I had a local small show on sports betting radio in Atlantic City for a little while, and some people reached out to me for help, like, hey, can I come help you, this or that? And I said, sure, absolutely. I would love the help. I need the help. You can get the experience. I can't pay you, similar to my situation. And, there was an example. It was like a Friday night. And I was like, hey, I'm recording 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Friday night. Oh, no, I'm going out with my buddies to the bar. But Monday I got you. And it didn't affect me. But that's still, like, it's like, do you want it or do you not want it?
Right.
You know
what
I mean? Like, how bad do you want it? And if you'd rather do that, then I don't think you want this that bad. You just like the idea of it.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, most people think that shine, especially with social media now. It's like, God forbid that goes away. And it's a lot of people will lose any kind of probably to even commit to what they want to do, as opposed to the people who probably wouldn't care whether they were seen or not. They just want the opportunity to keep coming. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I do think it honestly shows the mice from the men, type of thing. Now moving to why, like I said, I'm doing this pod, but personally, I think that it does help to kind of get to know the people and network. And I, like I said, I'm pretty limited. Like, I don't have a car. So it's like, it's one of those things, like, everything for me takes a walk, off a train or whatever. But do you find that networking has helped in ways where it's probably either more accessible through social media, or is it still kind of better to be face to face, meet people at those mixers or whatever they do for like young professionals?
Are you saying like just how just networking through social media and online, is there a benefit to that?
Yeah, as opposed to like in person. I mean, we're kind of limited sometimes with COVID still, but I mean, is that probably better going to those kind of like when they used to do those young professional mixers, or do you say it doesn't really matter either way?
I don't think it matters. And I don't know though. Like there's no recipe. There's no like map for
Yeah.
this. There's no secret. Like I don't have a roadmap for anyone. Like, hey, here's step one. You make a left in 400 feet, then in 2 miles.
Yeah.
Like it's not like maybe one of those networking things works for someone, and maybe for 20 other people it doesn't. Like I just think it's different for everyone. I've networked with a lot of people, and there's plenty of people that maybe said, nah, that kid Ryan, I'm not a fan of him, or he doesn't have talent, or that's nothing came of it. And then there's plenty others where it was the complete opposite. I just think once again, you have to continuously put yourself out there. Just because one networking thing didn't work, or one person you didn't vibe with, doesn't mean you suck at this. Like, some people you're just not going to get along with. That's life. Some situations aren't going to pan out. That's I just think you have to stick with it. If you don't have the money or the capability to go to a networking event that costs us $200 to get in the door, that doesn't mean you have a less of a chance, right? Like I think there's different ways for everyone. I think a lot of my answers sound corny and cliche, but that's the truth.
Because it's the truth. I mean, I just want to hear if that's what you believe, because
it's not.
Everyone has a different, like you said, a different path, but also getting to know people too. Like I said, okay, so I was going to ask you one of the questions I was going to ask you, but then I don't know if that's too invasive, but the link up again, and I'll probably will contact you again about this, because I do want to get a mix of guys and girls, but I'm trying to wait on 3 girlfriends of mine to do this too, because they're way more storytelling when it comes to dating. But have you found that dating is, and I don't know your situation, but I was going to say, is dating harder in the age of COVID than it would have been before? Like, because I find that most people who talk about they still date during this, I'm like, how though? Isn't it even weirder? Like, do you even attempt at it, or are you just like, no, I'm cool, I got my girl, I'm good, I don't have to worry about that?
Yeah, I think COVID made it very difficult. Very difficult, for obvious reasons. And like it made the online dating, like I've done it before. I stopped at one point, but like it's a very popular thing. Like there's people that are married because they met on an online dating, so it's used for a lot of different purposes. But I think there's a lot of good, just because that's our world now. Like, what do you do if you're in the thick of COVID and you're using a dating app? It's like, all right, well, the combo's gone well. Now what? Right? Like, do you want to make your pasta? I'll make mine, and we'll have a Zoom call at 8 p.m. Friday. Like,
that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it was.
Crazy.
Zoom dates were the new thing. I've known people that done them.
That's crazy. I've never done that. That's crazy.
I don't see the point. Like, okay, so with dating apps with me, it doesn't go past like 1 or 2 chats, and then it's like somebody loses interest. Or they go straight to, let's meet somebody, here's my number. I'd be like, yo, playa, chill. Like, I just blocked you.
Let me ask you. All right. So you don't have to disclose if you're on dating apps now or not, but clearly you've dabbled. I think most people have.
Yes.
Like, I find it interesting in the culture today. You have female or male on a dating app, but if I go up to that same female at the bar or at any in-person event, and I just like try to strike up conversation, you're a creep, right? Like not all the time, but it's like, whoa, who is this guy just randomly? Who does he think he is trying to come up to me? But you'll talk to him on a Bumble or Tinder for 2 hours. It's like, I understand there's a security factor, but it's just so different now.
It is. And I think for me, and I have dabbled in most of them, but like I said, there's only been one no, that's a lie, because it's been so long. But it's like, I know way back I met a couple, but they both were horrible. And one was too clingy. The other person wasn't interested. I don't even know why they even bothered. And then the third time, I don't know what happened. Like something weird happened. And this is how far back it was, like at least 5 years ago. because I've just been on this whole, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm just cut the bullshit. Like, I'm tired. And then I have friends who date so much that they make me tired. So then I don't want to do it. So it's just, I realize I'm like, and then my friends are like, you just scared. I'm like, I am scared. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but even now in COVID, I'm really scared. Like, I don't trust that everybody's getting their vaccines. I don't trust that people aren't clean in general, you know? So, and then I'm also just delusional with athletes. So I'd rather just stay there. So it just seems very fun to just wish Mike Scott would ask me out, even though I know he's a baby mama and all that stuff. But that's more
follow your
exciting
dreams, AJ. Follow your
I'm just
dreams.
saying, I feel like it's safer here. I know it's not realistic, but yeah. But yeah, dating apps, I think there are some girls that probably just do it so much they probably forgot. And then also there's girls that just like to play games. But me personally, I just hope you're not crazy. And I already hate the idea of doing it anyway, because I'm so used to meeting people organically. You know, I'm very outgoing when I am out and stuff, and I love dancing and all that stuff. But you know, if I was to meet somebody now, I'd probably be like, I'd have a list of questions in my head from the door. I'm like, all right.
As you should.
You know, yeah, like now I think I would be that girl walking around with a list in her head and being like, okay, you know,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone should have high expectations, but mine are ridiculous now to the point where I'm just like, I would rather meet somebody on a chance hanging out with other friends, because I'm always in a group of the same girls pretty much. And you get older, you know, I'll say it, I'm 40 plus, and you just don't have time for the bullshit. So it's like, that's another reason why it's easy to be like, time out. Like, I don't want to do this crap anymore. Like, I don't need to meet your representative. I'm pretty much very open and upfront. So if I'm too blunt, that could be probably the only reason now I would probably not date. It's just because I'm too blunt now. Like, now I'm just too like,
but that's but that's you know.
It is.
If you're too blunt for someone, that person's not for you anyway.
No, exactly. But you know, and then there's also my sister will always say, well, you probably can't handle it back. And I'm like, maybe not, but I dare you to try to go there. But anyway, but yeah, so dating has been weird, but also have you, as you've matured, what do you feel like too are kind of like, I guess 3 things you would think are things you really want in a person? I guess, I don't know how to say it, personality traits or things you desire in a partner or a longtime mate that you know for sure, like, these are my things. If they're not like this, then I'm not trying to bother with them.
It's a good question. I think they need to be independent. Like, I think they need to have their own goals and like dreams, and they need to have their own career. And I just think they need to align with like my values and morals and my like support my goals, because my career right now, I still need to be very selfish in a way. And I'm still, you know, doing my thing. So I think it's just someone to be supportive, be understanding of your situation, someone that's a go-getter themselves and just aligns with whether it's humor, work ethic, family life, like all of that. I just the basic stuff, but that's easier said than done.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like, at this point, I'm going to sit there and be like, I would like him to be an athlete. But I don't at the same time, because I know that, you know, people are saying, hey, JJ, don't do that. They cheat. They're dirty. I'm just like, here's the thing. I met somebody who was from Temple one time at a club. And I said, the only reason why I didn't like him is he was just, I'm not big on like being too touchy too soon. Like, I'm just like, you know, I'm always hot too. So just stop. So
I'm like, with you. Even deep into a relationship, I'm good on like the PDA. Like, you know,
you don't need to do this for a picture. Like,
no.
Chill out. We get it. You know, you're right. And that's the thing. Okay, so then again, now I remembered. So what is your pet peeve with women? What is one thing that you know where you're like, oh, please don't do this, or I'm out. I'm out.
No, I like when you say what's my pet peeve, I mean, is it could be different. Like, is it with dating? Is it with just,
well, I've always figured like there's a general thing, because maybe in your, I don't have extensive dating history like that, but I just know that as you've noticed when you've met people or girls, you're just like, please don't do this, because I hate that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, don't be sitting there and tell me you're not hungry, but then you're like, can I have some steak or something? You know, like that was one thing I heard before on a date was just like, okay, you know, you eat burgers, don't be cute and eat a salad. Eat,
right,
you know?
right. Yes.
So
no, that's the good one. I mean, I just think it's like the games. And this doesn't go for every single female, but it's just like saying one thing, but it really means another. Right. And it's like, I'm not a detective. All right. I'm an idiot. All right. I'm an idiot. I need
Yes.
someone that's going to call me on my BS. You know, if
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I should be doing, like whatever it is, then call me on it. Or if you don't like something I do or don't do, call me, like tell me, you know, not like, are you mad? No, everything's fine. Well, that's like the universal, everything's not fine. Like,
yeah, no,
so
no,
it's
I
just
won't
like
do
the
that.
games. It's the games,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah, and I think that's really that is definitely maturity because obviously I'm at a point whether I'm not I dated a lot. Okay, mostly situationships. I can't really say I've been with someone for years because people get on my nerves quickly. But there hasn't been anybody that made me want to settle down. Put it that way. So, but I also know that that's partially obviously because I don't go out to date a lot. So
Yeah.
and that's my control thing. I mean, I'm a Virgo, so I guess it's just a control thing. Well, you know, there I go with the astrology. It means nothing, but it entertains me.
I don't
Now,
hate I'm not against the astrology stuff. I'm not full blown against it.
well, if you ever watched the Rory and Mal podcast, they did a whole skit about a girl that talks about nothing but astrology on the date. And I just thought, I was like, that's too much, girl. Just, you don't
Yes.
care.
Yeah.
Too much.
You can't go full astrology right off the bat.
Right off the bat. So,
yeah.
but you know, you watch Rory and Mal. I've learned stuff from, I know they're like a rare breed of men, but I do like the way they talk sometimes. Yes, sometimes it's a little detailed for my ears, but I do feel like it helps me understand how some guys read certain women, you know, but I'm sure it'd be a totally different podcast if they were married, because I guarantee you, if they're even thinking about doing a podcast when they're married, it's going to be like, what the freak are we talking about? But it comes with maturity. And I think that people like, that's why I can't wait to get my 3 girls together, because they are definitely, well, one's a mother. Well, 2 are mothers and one's single, but they definitely have different opinions of men, I think, now than they did before when they were like, they're like young and dumb and stuff.
Right.
So I do think that, and do you mind if I ask how old you are?
No, absolutely not. I'm 31.
Okay. So when I was in my 30s, I think, was I popping? I was popping about that time. Yeah. I think like, I'm trying to think because I'm like,
what do you
I was a
mean
late,
you were popping?
I was popping like in the sense like I wasn't afraid to go out and date and meet people. Like
Okay.
I was more bold then. And then I think like I took like about 36. So I think now at this point now, that's why I say like 30s, I think you're starting to understand a lot more about self-respect and giving respect. And like you said, the games. I mean, people still bullshit in their 30s too, but I think you're just, you're more or less likely to want that karma back on you. So
absolutely. Yeah.
You have to treat people equally. But the big question is, would you date a Cowboys fan or a Giants fan?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
This is still a common question in the sports world because people still get crap about it.
I think I would. It has to be the right person though.
Okay.
It has to be the right person, you know, like someone that still respects my fandom and I can respect theirs to a degree. Like it has to be the right situation, you know, because like I lived in Dallas for about 6 months. So some of the people down there I couldn't stand, and just for how they are as fans, and others I really enjoyed. So
I got family in Dallas, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, if they're like the diehard Cowboys fan, like we're diehard Eagles, I don't know if that could work.
You're right. Know? I mean, the fandom has to be, you have to consider how nutty they are about it. Okay, so most likely I'd be more leaning towards if they were a Giants fan more than the Cowboys, because I can't, you know why? Because most of the people I have encountered who were Cowboys fans are obnoxious. So with the exception of my cousins in Jersey, I'm not gonna say nothing to y'all, but yeah, like I feel like Giants fans, and I have a thing with New York guys. I do think there's something about New York guys that are attractive.
I was gonna say sorry to cut you off, but it's
that's okay.
New Yorkers and Philadelphians, like we're the same
yeah, that's
person,
so that's why like I say I don't feel like I'm portraying, you know.
I got you.
We're not too far, but Cowboys, you know, you're taking a risk if you're tough. A nutty fan of Jur. But and then lastly, tell me about when this whole new podcast, because you had the Fix first and then you had this. So what brought this transition on?
This is ran by VSiN and Bet Rivers. So the Fix was something I started on my own. I just turned mics on and did it from my house. And then that turned into a local show that got picked up. And then I received the phone call about a month ago from VSiN saying, we're rolling out the CityCast group of shows. So every major city in the country, we're going to have a show with a host doing, local content and local sports betting content. We want you to be our Philadelphia guy. And I said, absolutely. So
nice.
the fix is, it's not dead, but it's on the back burner for now because this is taking up a lot of my time.
Got you. No, but I like that because, like I said, I'm gonna always probably keep birds of a feather, and so help me because I've been studying voice acting a lot more because as many times as I've heard, if not from the Fourth and John guys, I've heard from guys that I've called into Mike Missinelli's show on The Fanatic about how they like my voice. So I said, well, I need to be banking on this. So
yeah,
eventually I'm going to get to the point where I'm hoping to get gigs there so that eventually, like I said, I'm probably going to pause from my podcast, but my friend Eddie B, who I went to school with at UArts, I kind of dragged him onto it because after a while, one, I got tired of my own voice. And then two, I had his mutual friend saying, why don't you just do it with Eddie every now and then? I'm like, all right. And Eddie's very chill. So it's like, I always sound like I'm on crack when we're together, but I wanted a male perspective. So it's like, and Jeff Mosher blessed me one time and did a segment with me one time. So I loved that. But I would like more different sounds. Eddie's not the jealous type. So he's going to be like, whatever, but let me know. And, but it's cool to have a male perspective. And that's why, again, I wanted to interview as well, because I feel like the more men that I know definitely who, breathe their sports, live their sports, but are also not as crazy. I can reasonably get opinions from and not just always bang on E-Rock story, because Lord knows that last the link up I did. E-Rock thought I was trying to get him broken up with his wife, and I was just like, no, it's just a question.
yeah.
He was just like, I need you to chill.
Oh my God.
It was fun though. But I mean, the link up is going to be another brainchild. And like I said, I will be grabbing you again, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Because I want to be able to just ask people, because it's nice to watch male and female interaction.
Yeah.
But a lot of the girls have to be willing to do it. I think one of my friends that did the first girls panel that I did, she regrets it a little bit because I showed it and then she was like, oh my God, I look so fat, turn it off. And I'm just like, oh my God, you look cute. What are you talking about? So I have to be mindful of people who may not want to be shown, but it's like, how you show clips, like every now and then I want you to get hype about it and watch it. But if you, a celebrity I was thinking about that I always used to love, that kind of puts me like in I guess someone I would want to interview, I guess, if they were still living, would be, I've been on this whole Aaliyah kick since they finally released all her music. And she's definitely someone I think I would like to sit down and interview because she seemed like she was a little more than what she showed, because I think she liked the whole mysterious vibe that she gave. If you could interview somebody, and it doesn't have to necessarily be sports, but if you could sit down with somebody and set up an interview and pick their brains, who would you want to interview?
Yeah, I love this question. I think Wilt Chamberlain would be a really good one.
Ooh.
And Heath Ledger, because I'm just obsessed with his Joker character.
Yeah, that was intense. I mean, I still think to this day of just the scene with him walking out in the nurse uniform and the place blowing up behind him.
It's amazing.
I still think just the fact that he walked out, it was just so like, whatever. And
it was so funny. Everything he did was just, that is my favorite role, I think, of all time. I thought it was just brilliant.
Knowing how much he really put into that though, physically, I kind of had to feel like, I kind of almost felt drained for him at the end of that movie, because you can kind of tell he physically exhausted, and you can see why he probably had sleeping issues and stuff, because there's something about the Joker that you got to go somewhere mentally for that, and there is no way in hell you can come out of that and not have a little bit that left on you. But yeah, no, he's definitely a good interview, because I think he was very intense, and for him to do Brokeback Mountain and be a straight man and not be
I know, right?
Totally turned out after that. I'm like, I give it to you, dude, because that was some bold stuff in that tent. But anyway, I thank you though for doing this. There'll be more for this, like I said, the link up will be coming back with new panel. But I thank you so much, Ryan, for carving out some time doing this, especially on a Friday night. I mean, if I had some wine, I'd give you a toast. I'd be like, cheers to the weekend.
Cheers.
But you're not having any predictions, then, I assume, for the game, right? You're just kind of just winging it and just watching it like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to make a prediction, I think the Falcons win in like a 23-20 type of game. But like we said earlier, I think either way, it's going to be a really close game, and I think the Eagles have an opportunity. I need to see some action before I know what we have.
Got you. I hear you. I mean, if there's a lot of games that seem really interesting to watch, but like you said, as you kind of ran through after those first three, I thought about it. I was like, oh crap, they do play Tampa. Oh crap, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the only team I'm not afraid of is the Raiders, but I think also because that's probably the fun away game destination if you decided to go to a game.
Yeah.
Especially because what is it, November? I think it's November this year. And I thought to myself, I'm like, that's the perfect game. But I'm like, I'm going to Puerto Rico. So I'm like, let me just hold on to my pennies. But thank you so much for making time. Once again, plug your the latest show now too, podcast wise.
Yeah, I appreciate it, AJ. Anytime you want me on, I'm happy. And this was fun. But at Wiserye on Twitter and Instagram, WISERYE. You can subscribe to the new podcast, the Philadelphia City Cast, on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, it's there. And then you can listen to me on WIP. You can just follow me on social media for when I'll be on next.
Oh, and you're doing late nights on WIP?
A little bit all over the place. Yeah.
Okay,
Sometimes it's 2 to 6. Sometimes it's weekend, afternoon, or evening. So
yeah,
that's typically when you'll find me. Yep.
And yeah, before the Fanatic when they became FM, I used to listen to WIP late at night. Rest in peace, Big Daddy, by the way.
Yes.
I listened to him a long time ago when my mom had to go somewhere and I was picking her up from the airport. And I remember sitting there listening to him. He said something so random that I called in. And I'm like, I'm calling this guy at 2 a.m. in the morning. But he was so nice. And, I think he appreciated that I was a female calling that late. He was just like, what you up this late for or whatever. But yeah, rest in peace to him. And
yes.
Thank you again for doing this. And for all those who are watching Birds of a Feather, 5 Questions, this is Ryan. And my new media buddy friend, hopefully maybe we'll see each other during the season. You never know. I mean, I don't plan on going to a game, but if I do decide to leave these walls, I might see him in passing. So, but thank you so much. And yes, we'll talk soon, hopefully. See you on the Twitter.
Absolutely. Thank you, AJ.
Take care. Bye, guys.